Hi, I'm Jess Ripley. I'm a life coach and a therapist who loves to surf. So I wanted to create some content especially for surfers. I asked surfers what they would be interested in learning about, and one of the most common responses was around the theme of dealing with other surfers who are being difficult for one reason or another. So maybe being wave hogs or sending out mean or negative energy or some other conflict in the water. So I put together quite a few different options, things that work for me that might work for you, not just in surfing, but in any difficult interaction with other people. So let's get started. Okay, so some of these tips I'm going to share with you today are things that you just do yourself internally, and others are ways that you're going to interact with the other person. We're going to start with the internal things. So the first thing you want to do before you try any of these tips is to get centered and grounded. So if someone is irritating you or making you nervous, making you uncomfortable in some way, that means that probably your nervous system is a little bit activated, which is like being in the fight or flight state. In that state, you don't have full access to your more logical thinking brain, so it's harder to make good decisions. So a couple of ways that you can get grounded are to take a long, slow, deep breath with a long exhale. And to notice sensory input, so things that are in the here and the now that you perceive with your five senses, with your body. So you're moving from thought down, lower, more into your body. So once you've done that, you might want to try my first tip, which is to move, to physically move. The beauty of being an adult is that almost always you have the choice to not stay somewhere if you don't like it there. So depending on why you're surfing, what your goal or your intention for your surf is, it might be a great option for you to move. However, if you're surfing just with the only intention of catching the most waves possible, the highest quality waves possible, and there's only one peak, I understand why you wouldn't want to move. There's other options here for you. My next tip is to move mentally. So this means to move your focus or your attention. Your focus, your attention have energy. They give energy to what you send them to. They also create your perception of reality. What you are looking at, paying attention to, is creating your present reality. So if you give all of that to this negative person, that's your whole picture of reality right now. However, it's possible to notice that, okay, part of me is irritated with this person, but there's another part of me that is happy to be here, that loves surfing, and that is enjoying just sitting out on the water. And you can observe things that you're grateful for in the setting. So maybe you love the sea life that's around, or the weather is beautiful, or there's someone else who's not being a jerk. You can choose what to give your attention to and give it to something deserving. The next thing you can do to make this situation easier on yourself is to cultivate some empathy and understanding for this person. You can do this by widening your perception of them to not just be limited to the one possibility that they are just jerks and that they're intentionally trying to be rude or to hurt you, because that's actually very unlikely. Most people who are being angry or aggressive, they're not actually thinking that they want to hurt the other person. They have something else entirely going on in their internal world. So you might wonder, why would I want to cultivate empathy for someone who's being a jerk? And I would tell you that the reason why is because it's in your best interest. You're not doing it for them in this situation. You're actually doing it for yourself, because this might enable you to have some compassion for them. And when you have compassion for someone, they're much less threatening, and you take whatever they say or do a lot less personally. It's like if someone came up and insulted you. If an adult came up and insulted you, you would probably be offended and want to plan revenge or what to say back. But if a child came up and insulted you, you would probably be like, wow, that's weird. I wonder what's going on with that kid. It wouldn't be as painful of an experience because we naturally have that compassion for a child. So we can figure out how to create that with an adult who's bothering us while we're surfing or in any situation. So you can do that with some curiosity and considering other possibilities. So I'm going to just share with you a few of the other possibilities that might be going on. One is that this person might have tunnel vision, especially if they're being a wave hog. They may not be very good at what we're talking about, having empathy and seeing others' perspectives. They may just sort of only see the waves and themselves, and they don't realize what they're doing. Another possibility is that they are feeling insecure. Maybe at some point in time, their worth as a person was connected with their physical ability, maybe even specifically their surfing ability, and that puts a lot of pressure on surfing. They need to surf to be good enough. Like, they need to catch the wave to be good enough if they've associated their performance or their physical ability with their worth or value as a person. Another possibility is that there's someone who's in pain and they're using surfing as an escape. And we all kind of do this to some extent or another, but some people are doing it at a high intensity. So maybe they have got 2 jobs that they work all day, they've got several kids at home, they've been arguing with their spouse, and this is their only time to get some relief, and they feel that catching and riding the wave is their relief. So again, to them, this wave means a lot. It's their only chance to get this freedom and this relief. So that might be hard to believe because we naturally, when we see people acting that way, we get defensive, and it's just natural to assume that they're just being jerks, and it's hard to go deeper, consider the other possibilities. So I have illustrated for you something called the emotional iceberg. This is a metaphor to explain the concept that under the surface, people are sometimes experiencing a lot of a painful primary emotion like hurt or fear, but all others see is the tip of the iceberg, which is the secondary emotion. Secondary emotions or behaviors are often things that distance others to create safety and protect the vulnerable primary emotion underneath. So next time you see someone who is acting angry, aggressive, rude, just remember that almost definitely they are actually also feeling a lot of pain, fear, and insecurity. And those things aren't really acceptable or responded to well most of the time. So it's not safe for them to show those feelings, and they're sending out defenses instead. And that might just make it a little bit easier for you to not take their behavior so personally, not feel so obligated to change or defend yourself, and have a little bit of compassion for them. Now I'm going to tell you some options for how you can actually interact with the other person in a way that might improve their behavior or at least make you feel a little better about the situation. So the first one is to be friendly. Now that you know about the emotional iceberg and you know that this rude person is actually a hurt and afraid person, you might realize that they probably aren't getting a lot of friendliness. People are probably mostly responding to them with defensiveness, anger. They're getting their own energy back. And they might act a lot different if they got some different energy, which you can give to them in the form of being friendly. I did this once with someone who seemed to be being a wave hog, had a really, really long board and was catching every wave from the outside. And I was getting frustrated because I was not able to catch anything that this person wasn't already on. So I decided to try out the friendliness, and I went over and sat in the lineup near that person and just struck up a conversation. And then that person actually didn't take another wave until they like told me, go ahead on this wave, and I caught a wave. Then they went back to their ways. But I was able to get a wave and get a lot more positive, like supportive energy from this person. So ways that you can be friendly include just basic connection with this person. It does need to be authentic. So you need to think of something polite or some question that you could ask that you genuinely want to know the answer to, or that you genuinely mean. So maybe a compliment, you could look at their surfing style or their board and compliment them somehow in a way that you legitimately like what you're saying that you like, and that can start up a conversation. Or maybe a question, maybe you're curious about how often they surf here, maybe just want to ask them a little bit about themselves to get more of that wider perception of them. Whatever it is, just genuine questions or politeness to just be friendly to this person. And it's likely that they'll be a little confused because they're probably not getting that very often, and they might respond really well. In addition to friendliness, or instead of friendliness, if that's not working or it just doesn't feel authentic to you today, the next thing you want to try is assertiveness. So assertiveness is behaving in a way that shows that you believe in yourself and that you believe that you deserve to be here. This shows other people how to treat you. They look at you and they see, oh, this person is going for this wave, or this person is supposed to be out here. It's their turn. So there's a few different ways that you can cultivate assertiveness. It's a really big topic and it takes quite a while. It's something you can always be growing in. I personally am definitely always growing towards assertiveness. So one of the important factors is your posture. You might sit on your board sort of slouched. If you have a physical reason for the way that you sit on your board, like an injury or something, then take care of your body. But if it's just because you haven't been mindful of it, sitting up tall and straight and sturdy. So not like really arched back or really rounded back, just strong and tall. And another one is your eye contact. So naturally, when you sit up straight and hold your head high, your eyes are going to be up and forward, but you can just make sure to notice that they are, and that it's okay for you to make eye contact with that other person. Not intense, glaring eye contact, that would be beyond assertive into aggressive, and not like looking down or avoiding eye contact, that would be below assertive and more passive. So you hold your body up, your shoulders, your chest are open, your head is held high, and you're able to look that person in the eye because you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be afraid of. You know that you belong out here in the lineup and you deserve to catch waves, and you have nothing to fear with this person or with anything else in the water. So one other way that you can cultivate assertiveness is by being mindful of your voice. So your presence, your physical presence is one thing, but your audible presence is also something important. It can amplify your presence from just being small. If you're not speaking, or if you are being really quiet, soft-spoken, then most likely nobody's even going to hear you. If they happen to not see you, they're not going to know you're there. But if you can speak up using volume and confidence in the tone, then your presence is going to be known. And you can do this with just stating neutral things. I'm not saying that you have to tell them what's wrong with them or send them an insult. You just state, I'm here. You can do it especially if you're going for a wave that is rightfully yours, or maybe that you've been waiting for a long time and you want to ask, can I go right? Are you going left? Or you can just say, I'm on it. I got it. I'm going for it. any of those things. They're not threatening, but they create your presence and they prove that you are going for it and that you know that you can get this wave and you deserve to get this wave. And even if you don't catch the wave, you will feel a lot better about yourself having spoken up for yourself. One other thing, sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's hard to think of words, and you can actually also just make noise. You'll hear people sometimes doing this in the lineup, like whoop or hooty hoo. I even go, if I'm on a wave already and I see someone going for it and they're going to be in my way, I'll go beep, 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 beep. And they usually hear that and are confused and then pull back and don't go for it. So you can be assertive both in your physical posture and in your volume and in your eye contact. So the last thing I want to share with you are some interpersonal skills. So these are things you can either do to de-escalate conflict or things that you should avoid doing because they could create conflict or they could make things worse. So first, let's talk about how to de-escalate if you're in a situation, a high intensity situation. So every once in a while out in the lineup, especially at certain spots, you can encounter someone who is extremely aggressive and out there to attack other surfers, usually verbally, sometimes even physically. This usually is going to be a person who is responding to a different situation in their life. So there's somewhere else in their life where they do not express their anger. They do not stand up for themselves because they don't feel safe doing so with that person. Or maybe this happened in the past in their childhood. And they come out into the lineup and they see people that they're never going to see again, that it doesn't matter how they treat them. And they allow that anger that belongs with someone else that they don't have the courage to express to that person. They finally get an outlet like a volcano and send that to you. So it helps to know that it's actually not about you. They're usually going to be insulting you, blaming you for something. So just remember, that's not about you. It's quite obvious if you step back that they're reacting to something else. There's very few situations out in the lineup in the beautiful ocean with the waves and other people who are just trying to enjoy the waves. Very few situations where that level of anger actually matches what's going on there. So you know that they're actually expressing anger about a different situation. So what you want to do is try out the gray rock technique. So this is where you're going to be about as interesting as a gray rock. The concept is based on the idea that your response, your attention, any response is energy and fuel for their anger. Even if it's defending yourself or explaining your situation, no matter what it is, it's just going to fuel their anger and give them more reason to continue talking to you or yelling at you or whatever it is. So you want to respond with very neutral, simple, short things and express very little emotion in response to them. This is going to reduce the intensity of their response. You can also use the broken record technique, which is just repeating yourself. If you say a nice gray rock statement, they might come back with something that is meant to draw you into an argument, and you just repeat the same thing over again like a broken record. You also should probably go towards some other people if there are any there, especially if it's someone that you know or that you've seen there before. Go towards other people just because your safety is what's most important. This person is in a state of not logic. There's no way you're gonna reason with this person. They're, like we were talking about in the beginning when you need to get grounded, they are very ungrounded. So their logic brain is not working. You're not gonna be able to reason with them. And because they're so illogical and unreasonable, their opinion of you is really not important. You know that you're a good person. You know that you had good intentions. Whatever happened, you weren't trying to hurt anyone. you know that you're doing your best, and you don't need to prove that to them or convince them of that. You just want to get as much space away from them. Get far away from that negative energy. Don't return it. Don't accept it. Don't try to change it. Just distance from it. That has nothing to do with you. It doesn't deserve your energy or your attention. So there's a few things that a lot of people have the instinct or the urge to do in these situations that actually make things a lot worse. So I want to tell you about those so that you can stop before you do these things and decide if you really want to when you know what the consequences will probably be. So the first little chunk of things is criticism, insults, teasing, any form of sending judgment or ridicule to that other person. Maybe they deserve it, and maybe it would feel really good to do that for a minute. But the truth of the matter is that you would be sending back the energy that they're sending you, and then you would get more of it back. All of those things, criticisms and ridicule, those make people angrier. Whatever that person's doing that you don't like, they're most likely gonna do more of it if you send them that energy. So just know before you decide to do those things that you're essentially asking for more of what you don't like in the situation. Another thing to avoid that has actually good intentions, but it doesn't work out the way you intend it to, is to become defensive, explain yourself, or accuse the other person. So maybe there's been some sort of a misunderstanding. It happens in the water because each person's perception of the situation feels 100% true to them, and it's completely opposite of how someone else perceives the situation. So you have the urge to say, like, wait a minute, no, I saw that you were going right and my plan was to go left, so I didn't drop in on you. And that is often received as more of the criticism, judgment. Even though you might say, like, actually, let me tell you what I was doing, they hear it more like, listen, doofus, let me tell you what's really happening. You're wrong, I'm right. And you again get more of that energy back that you don't want. It creates more of what you don't want. So just a neutral, again, gray rock, a neutral statement of like, oops, or are you okay? We're both fine. Something neutral. You don't have to accept responsibility, or if it doesn't matter to you, if you don't care about, if you're not feeling defensive of your ego, I'll just say, oh, my bad, or sorry. I'll just tell myself, like, I'm sorry that you're being a jerk. But I don't say that part to them, right? Just something that will de-escalate the situation and be neutral, because explanations and blame and like defending yourself will increase the situation. Last one to avoid, any form of talking down to or patronizing. And this can be easy to accidentally do. I have a story of a time that I accidentally did this. I was riding a wave in, and the waves happened to be really close together that day. So there was white water in front of me. I couldn't see very far. And suddenly I could see that there was someone standing in the water, like chest deep water, with his board next to him. I was headed right for him. So I tried to turn and I hopped off my board, and it did head towards him, and I think it tapped him because he was sort of having a fit when I was able to see what was going on. And I thought I was being helpful, and I responded with a lot of like trying to help or take care of him. Like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Are you hurt? What's wrong? And he just, like, angrily turned and didn't say anything. So then I thought that he was actually hurt, so I made it worse. And I was like, do you need to go in? Would you like me to walk in with you? And that's the only time that I've been flipped off out in the water. I didn't realize that I was talking to him like he was a baby, and that's insulting to people. Surfers are tough badasses. Whether they're surfing great or they're new, they're brave and they're out there, and you don't need to talk down to them or take care of them. If someone asks for your help, that's the time to help. But be careful to not make the mistake that I made and talk down to someone on accident. Another way that people accidentally do this is with advice giving, like unsolicited advice, like paddling up to someone and saying, hey, you should do this. It can be received as an unwanted criticism. If you have a really good pointer that you really want to share with someone, a good way that you can try to do that is to say, hey, there's a trick that I use that really works well for me. Can I tell you about it? So then you're making it about you. You're not saying, oh, you're messing up or you're a subpar surfer. You're saying like, hey, I know something cool. Do you want to hear it? You give them the option. And if they say no, then mind your own business and just move along. So those are some things that you can just avoid doing even though you might want to, and it will just make things run way more smoothly in your surf. Okay, that's all of them. I hope that was helpful. Leave a comment and let me know if it was. If you have any questions or you'd like individual support with any of these topics, then send me a message and we can set up a call. If this concept of upgrading your surf experience by learning these kinds of skills and practicing mindfulness is appealing to you and you think you want more of that in your life, you might be interested in my Stoke coaching. It's personal growth and development coaching specifically for surfers. I'm going to be offering it in person where we can practice in the water, and online for people who don't live near me, where you can learn the skills and then go practice on your own and check back in afterwards. You can learn more on my website, growandthrivewithjess.com, or you can send me a message and I will send you the info. That's all I've got for you today. I'm going to close it up with some shakas and wish you lots of peace and harmony in the water.